Again, welcome to our webinar on our new Subdivision Configurator. We just released this last Wednesday. We also released a whole bunch of other things within TestFit, like unit dragging, core dragging, a whole bunch of things. So if you want to check any of that stuff out, please go to our website and see our release notes. But for the most part, today, Jack and I are going to talk about the Subdivision Configurator. We're really excited about this, and I should probably introduce myself. So my name is Nat MacDonald. I'm a licensed engineer. I've been working at TestFit for a little over a year and a half now as a product owner here. And Jack, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi Nat. I'm Jack Jors, it's Jors with a J, Director of Sales here at TestFit, resident cheerleader, but background in architecture and urban planning, and very, very, very excited about our release. So excited to be here. Thanks for joining.
And Jack, you want to take this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So we saw some fresh faces and we have some people that have been here before. So just a quick overview on what TestFit's really been focused on is the early feasibility stage, right? So we're trying to automate the repeatable so you can focus on the variable. And so the way that kind of works out is we'll automate some of the processes to, do takeoff, get parking stall counts, work through some of those things while you're focusing on unit mixes, unit layouts, and getting you to a deal that can pencil. And then we push into downstream apps to get you moving forward as quickly as we can. The whole idea is to speed through testing so that you can find the right project and move forward effectively.
So who this webinar is for. So like we said, we saw a lot of real estate developers, architects, civil engineers from that survey. That is who we're targeting for on this product, as well as like home builders, national and regional. What we want to enable you to do is very quickly figure out, okay, I have a large piece of land. How much can I fit on it? And what type? So to give an idea of why we got into subdivision, in the past, the majority of our product has been focused on multifamily and a few other typologies. But ultimately, for subdivision, the first was that housing supply isn't meeting demand. Just this week, there was a New York Times article that said, I think it was 3.8 million unit deficit of housing in the US. So even if in the short term, we're having a downturn, this is still a systematic issue that we need to solve. The next is 80% of the US is zoned as single family. That's just the way it is. So we kind of need to operate within that. However, at the same time, when we went about building this product, we recognized that a lot of municipalities, a lot of states are now allowing 2, 3, or even more units within single family zoned areas. So when we went about building this product, we wanted to make it really flexible in allowing those higher density subdivisions. So ultimately, our value prop is speed and flexibility. We want you to be able to decide very quickly, instead of it taking 2 weeks to decide, okay, this deal isn't actually going to work. We can't fit enough on the site. We want you to be able to do that almost instantaneously. We want you to determine the number of parcels you can fit. We want you to be able to use company presets and prototypical houses. In this building typology, there are a lot of very similar, there's a lot of prototypical houses being used. So we want you to be able to plug those in once and continually use them site after site. We obviously have quantities for earlier cost estimation, like linear footage of road. And ultimately, we want you to utilize the entire spectrum of housing density. This product is within our normal TestFit desktop app, which means that of any of these sites in this GIF right now, you could click on one and change it to a podium wrap or a podium or a wrap or a donut or townhomes or maybe an industrial building. We're really giving you the entire spectrum of housing density. So this is when I'm going to jump into a demo real quick. And let me just make sure I have the chat up too so that I can see that.
Absolutely. Feel free to put in questions as well, everyone. We can answer them live or we'll respond directly.
Into the Q&A, please, rather than the chat.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. All righty, so we're going to open TestFit. So if none of you have seen TestFit before, this is it. It is a desktop app. You have, your typical satellite underlays, your topo underneath that. And this is the site we're going to be working with today. Let me move some of these windows out of the way. So first thing about TestFit, it's all in real time, right? You don't have to wait for anything to render, to show up. It happens within 20 milliseconds. Easiest way to get a site going is just go over here, hit a road, draw said road. You can see here it says 16 acres. Just click on that. Right now you're placing a 5-story wrap on 16 acres. Obviously that's a little bit big. So we're going to go over to lower density here and just go to one of the presets. You can cycle through any of those, see what you like, and that's getting you going. So that's the first start. But let me go back to the previous sites that I have drawn up just to kind of go through some of our features. So first thing to talk about is basically there's some new terminology we're using in this configurator. So we are placing parcels and footprints within a site. So right now, these are just parcels. So this is considered just your land, not actually any building on top of that. Once you add a footprint, now that is your unit, your dwelling, that kind of thing. So that's just some basic terminology that I'll be bringing up. Oops, not manual mode. There we go. Let's go back to just parcels. Okay. So first thing we can talk about is kind of how we lay out our road network in this. Basically, we're going to generate this, and then you can kind of edit it to your ideal road, but you can generate different options. So based on different row axes, we have typical parameters that you can adjust, like width and radius. Some specific features that we added into Subdivision, though, is the ability to add kind of dead-end units or dead-end parcels. So what that means is with this corner here, if we go to this and start increasing that value, that's going to look at the angle of that and then add that dead-end parcel so that you can get those extra ones. I know some municipalities don't allow this, some do, but we wanted you to have the options in order to select that. The next thing would be access. So site access with entries and exits. Basically, anywhere you want along the outside, you can add these site entries. So to do that, I just go over here, hit exit. It places it and you can move it around. You can also just right click and duplicate those wherever you want. And then the last road feature that we added is the ability to have a max block length. So what that means is if we use our measuring tool here, this road is about 1,100 feet. We recognize that some municipalities don't want roads that are over a certain distance without it being connected. So basically by adding that, turning this max block length on, you're now setting that distance of which that road would be, would add a connecting road to it. So if I increase that, or if I decrease this, it's going to keep adding connecting roads to these because it's recognizing that it is within that length. There you go. So that's pretty much it on drive aisles, roads, access, that kind of thing. To go into parcels now, like I said, there are 4 different modes of footprints. So basically, as you move left to right on these, it's going to become more detailed within your site. So right now we have no footprints. Max area is kind of getting an idea of, okay, if I were to build exactly up to my setbacks, how much buildable area would I have? Target area is going into more of a sorry, I just need to resize this real quick. Target area is basically trying to hit a target area of the footprint. So if you look at parcel 2 here, if I reduce this target area, it's actually shrinking that footprint within that setback. If I increase it and it gets too large, it's going to give me red. That means, okay, that I can't hit that target area. Either I need to decrease the target area or increase the size of that parcel. A few other things on, or actually, so we went over max area, target area, and lastly, static. Let's actually just go over to the site over here. The idea with static is that you have a prototypical house that you want to apply to a parcel. So if I look at the parcels that I have here, I have H144, I have Nouvelle, and I have, oops, our Granbury prototypes. What I've done is I've said, okay, the width of H144 is 45 feet. It's a 72-foot depth. The width of the Nouvelle is 48 and 60. And so it's taking those very static dimensions and then placing those parcels on that lot. You can also apply the number. So in this case, we have a 2-car garage. So we added 2 parking stalls there. This one has actually 3. So we added 3 there and so on. Another thing to note, we've built in this feature. So we're going to place a rectangle on every parcel. We recognize that not all houses are exact rectangles. So what we did was we basically built in this feature of % as net rentable square foot to accommodate that. So this is not a perfect rectangle, but what we did is instead we put in the dimensions of this here. So we said the width of this was 55, depth is 85. And then we're having this modifier saying this is the buildable area is 80% of the actual rectangle. So that affects the coverage calculations and anything like that with that parcel. So we've basically used this static footprint to build out this whole area. Another interesting thing about parcels is you can either have them placed randomly. So let me see right now. So right now, basically these three types, let's change the color a little bit just so it's a little more obvious. As you can see, they're kind of placed randomly throughout, and that's so that we can hit the exact mix that we would like. Oh, that's fine. There we go. So right now we're attempting to hit a parcel mix of basically 30% for each parcel. And that's what we're doing here. So we have 26, 39, 34, not bad. Now, if we switch on row grouping, what this is going to do is basically group similar parcel types together. So if I turn that on, you now see, okay, all my Nouvelles are over here, all my H144s are over here. Obviously, our mix isn't as good because it needs to, it's not going to be as precise of as a hit.
Hey, Matt, could we jump into Drive for a second? We're getting some questions about Drive width and depth internally, as well as the roads that you drew externally. If we can kind of walk through what that looks like for changing those road networks.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for pointing that out, Jack. So within the site, you can adjust width and turn radius of that drive. Outside of the site, you can basically select these roads and do whatever you want within our road editor. So you can change the width, you can add parallel parking to it, anything like that. Is that kind of, I don't know why I don't see the Q&A questions. Oh, there we go. That's why.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. There's a question about other lanes, other types of uses for roads. And so, collectors versus arterials and that sort of thing. So like what Nat was just showing is our road network that he's drawn up outside would be your arterials and more editable within that street section that he was just showing. We can also have bus lanes, bike lanes, green buffers, all that sort of thing. Within the sites, they're all local roads that are all controlled together within that drive aisle parameter set that he was just showing as well, which could include bike lanes and things like that within that width.
Yeah. Awesome. Next thing I wanted to touch on real quick, what is basically like multi-unit or mixed density sites. So what we wanted to do here was basically say, all right, we're going to not just assume one parcel equals one unit. We want you to be able to put 8 parcels or 8 units or four units on a single parcel. Understanding that you may have a specific product that fits that. So what we did here, and here's kind of some examples of that. We have a bungalow court. So, it has 8 units, 8 parking spots. And we also have a single family house with an ADU attached. So what we did was we basically took those dimensions, put them in. So single family home, width 50, depth 100, bungalow court 110, 160. And then we have the ability to add units and stalls and a parking ratio to that. So what that's doing is basically just tagging that parcel with this data so that it tabulates down here. And then in order to take into account like the open space of the bungalow court, we're saying 61% of that area of this rectangle is actual buildable area or built area. So let's look at this site a little bit more and get into spaces. So we have the idea of these spaces that you can add to a site. Now what this is it's in this case just kind of like a placeholder. So we say, all right, this is a conditioned space and this is going to be a clubhouse or tennis courts or pool or whatever you want. And let's put that right there. Now, let's also say, okay, we have these townhome parcels that we put in here. Now we're saying this is just 6 townhomes in a row. It's a static footprint, and it contains 6 units. However, it contains 0 parking within that parcel. So we have to add parking elsewhere on the site. So the way we do that is basically you can click or add a space. I'm going to duplicate it in this case, drag it over, and then in the space inputs, I'm going to select parking. Voila, we have parking. Now, like I said, each one of these requires 6 stalls per parcel. And what we can do is basically look at this number and say, okay, right now we have 96 stalls. And I'll adjust the size of this just to show that that changes. It went down to 78. But our parking required is actually 100 stalls. So let's bump that up a little bit. And eventually we will get to 102. All right, so we have 2 stalls more than we need, but that's all right. We can move that around, get it to the right spot. There we go. So that's kind of spaces, parking spaces. And then lastly, within our space, I'll duplicate this again, is the idea of ponds. So we created this feature for our industrial configurator. However, it's been super useful and we decided to bring it over to subdivisions as well. Now what we can do is click on this, change it to a pond. and automatically this pond comes in. What this pond is doing is basically sizing, it's automatically sizing it based on the percentage of your site area. So if I actually wanted a 8.5% pond, that's going to hit that. I can resize it. It's going to always match that 8.5. I can move it around, rotate it, that kind of thing, get it right in the spot that I want. Next would be our deals within subdivisions. So we've actually added a new deal model to subdivisions, which is a build to sell model. So classically in TestFit, all of our deals have been build to rent because it's a multifamily, it was originally a multifamily product. So we can still put in, your rental revenue, your operating costs, hard costs, soft costs, all that good stuff, and save it as its own deal. But now we can also do build to sell. So a simpler model where we're basically saying, here are our costs, here's how much we're going to get paid. That's it. So the last thing I want to make sure we have enough time for questions. But the last thing I want to show is our manual mode. This has been constantly improving. I'm really happy with where it's at because one of our main goals for this product is to generate and then allow you to edit. So we want to give you something instantly, and then we want to give you the tools to edit it to perfection. So in this case, we have, this site, and, you say, all right, this is not exactly what I want. Let's go into manual mode. So once we're in manual mode, we can remove roads, add them in, and then immediately come back out and see, okay, that resolved. So here you get this kind of a nice little cul-de-sac effect here. We have a connecting road here. And whenever you go in and out of this, it will resolve to match what you would like. And let's see, is there anything else I'm missing in manual mode? I think that's about it for manual mode. Jack, have you seen any questions on there right now?
We've got some questions about the parcel where you had 4 or 5 buildings on it. How does that mass in 3D, and maybe just speak to the 3D massing in general?
Sure. Yeah. I guess I haven't gone too far into 3D. So right now in 3D, let's set some better shadows because that's not the best. In 3D, we're placing these footprints. You can take out the roofs. Obviously, they look a little bit funny on these larger buildings. You can add or remove trees, which would be more in the case of something like this. Let's see, other 3D things. I think that's about it. As you change setbacks, that'll change all your setbacks live here. I guess I did not go over easements. I guess this feature has been in TestFit for a while, but if you have an easement, you can basically create any shape, drag that around, and it affects all sites.
Nice. We had some questions about exports as well. Where do we go to? What do we support? What do you get?
Yeah, love it. So we have a few exports. So first off, we can render directly in TestFit to Enscape. That looks great. We can export to SketchUp, AutoCAD, Civil 3D, and Revit. And we're updating our Revit add-in hopefully in the next few days to allow subdivisions to come in.
Nice. We had some questions about cul-de-sacs. So how Matt kind of showed it, or Nat kind of showed it now, is there going to be straight lines? We're not doing, the bulb type just yet. But you do get the parcels that kind of work that around that. And Nat, if you have any other pieces to add to that.
Yeah. So right now our cul-de-sacs aren't like your classic kind of turnaround roundabout thing at the end. But that actually is a good point just to go into some of our roadmap. Obviously, this is we're constantly working on all of our products, making sure they're improving with the feedback from our customers. So knuckles and cul-de-sacs are certainly something we've heard we could improve upon, as well as footprint image underlays. We would like a manual mode or some type of mode that would allow you to select where, basically change parcel types, as well as some road layout optimization, and eventually a parcel specific deal model.
Absolutely. Property lines, have it. Great. Got that.
I think we're starting to get to some really technical specific questions here. So I'm going to call it. Thank you all for attending the webinar. If we didn't get to your question live today, we'll be sure to reply to you directly afterwards. We dropped a demo link in there. If you'd like to see subdivisions in action for your team, please share that. And also like to let you all know that we just completed a Series A fundraise. So we'll have much more resources to tackle this future roadmap, as well as other beautiful mountains to tackle like Rex. So you can check out our blog on that. We'll be dropping a few more call to actions in the chat. So if you guys want to check out any more information on this, it will also be all contained in the follow-up email, which will have the recording, as well as links to booking a demo, knowledge base article, and all that. Thanks very much, guys.